Hello, I'm your host, Pastor Kerrene Covington of Today's Christian Women, and I'd like to welcome you to our show today. We have a very special guest with us, a political person, but as well as a spiritual person. I'd like to introduce to you Marry Sheffield.
Hi.
How are you today?
Blessed.
That's great. We're going to talk a little bit first about your political ambitions, and first of all, I'm interested in how you got these ambitions. Most women don't really venture into that field.
Yes. Well, I grew up, my father was Reverend Horace Sheffield, and my grandfather was Horace Sheffield Jr., who were both involved in the political arena here in Detroit. I come from a very long legacy of people who have fought for this city. It's been over an 80-year legacy. So it's something that I've been around my entire life. It's something that's in my blood. It's a passion of mine. I mean, I grew up under my father who, throughout his entire life has protested, has, fighted for equal rights and working families. So I watched him as a young girl growing up here in Detroit, and it's just something that I've been around. So it's not new to me. And it's just something that after a while, after me walking into my own calling in life and realizing who I was as a young woman, I realized that's what I wanted to do as well.
I'm sorry. I understand that, wanting to continue the family legacy and having that, it's almost like it's in your blood, that you just can't draw yourself away from it. Still, as a woman, have you found it difficult to continue in those footsteps?
Oh yes, most definitely. I struggle with it all the time. I mean, my father, my grandfather left such a huge legacy here in Detroit, and still to this day, as I campaign and I meet people, I still hear the story and history of my family. So it's a lot to live up to. And I'm still trying to find my own way to continue the legacy. I'm not trying to be like my father or my grandfather. I'm trying to be Marry Sheffield. So I'm still at 26 years old trying to find Marry and do it on my own way. But yeah, it's hard as a woman, especially going into politics in Detroit. People think that I'm soft-spoken or I'm just, too nice and too sweet to get in such a tough field. But it's been a blessing. People have received me well here in the city, and they think that I would be a great candidate for office here.
Most people. Let me give the listeners a call number if you would like to talk to Marry. That number is 248-677-5162. So call and ask any questions that you would like. She won't shy away from you.
No.
Growing up in Detroit, you're trying to become a representative for District 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what does that include?
District 5 is primarily the Lower East Side, downtown Detroit area. It covers, Boston Edison, Indian Village, Harbortown, big streets like, Mack, Bewick, Van Dyke, East Grand Boulevard. It's the east side of Detroit coming down by the water. It does go west towards like Davidson and 96 area, but it's primarily the east side of Detroit, close to the water, downtown Detroit.
Hey, most people, native Detroiters would consider, well, they have money. I mean, who cares what happens to them? What do you say?
Well, that's not true. That area is very diverse. On the right-hand side of Jefferson going towards the water, you do have people who, have nice homes, but as soon as you go across the street on the other side, it's completely different. There is abandonment, there's blight, there is, dangerous homes and buildings. There's all types of stuff that you see in the district, so that's not true at all. That district in particular has a tremendous amount of blight and abandonment, and that is one of the main issues that I want to address as a city council member, is finding ways to eliminate the blight and abandonment throughout the district. It's an enormous amount.
We're going to get back to your districts that you hope to represent, but one of the cracks that I've heard on city council, and I'm a native Detroiter, and I probably said this myself, is that they're a little power hungry, somewhat conceited, unwilling to work with anyone else if they don't have a say. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think people in general do think that about city council members. When I go meet people, people tell me, why do I even want to get involved? And they're used to elected officials acting the way you just said. They get power hungry. They forget about who put them in office. And I think that's what separates me from other candidates, is that, and other people in general, is that I'm not like that. I think people are able to realize that I'm a humble person. I am a people person. I am someone who will stand up for working families and fight for the everyday average Detroiter. And I'm far from power hungry or, whatever you just, I'm far from that. So I think that separates me.
I think there's a love-hate relationship with City Council.
It is.
What would you do differently?
As far as just...
As far as changing people's perspective of City Council in general?
Well, in general, I think for me, my main thing as a City Council member is I just want to be a good steward of the people and really be that person who is able to be honest and be accessible about what is going on in city government. Someone who can relate back to my district and my constituents what exactly is going on and really be able to represent the issues and concerns that they have. I think we've lost that. People get up there, they get elected and they forget about the people. They forget about the issues that they're having in their district, and it's more so all about them, and they forget about the actual voice of the people. So that's what I want to do different. I just want to be honest. I want to be open, transparent, and accessible. People are not, elected officials to me nowadays are not accessible at all. And I want to be accessible. I want to be able to come into the community, let people know what's going on, and just be honest about the entire process. Now,
you mentioned the word steward, and that comes from your religious background.
Yes.
You are a pastor?
I'm a co-pastor.
Co-pastor of a church, same one with your dad is. I can't imagine anyone in Detroit not knowing who your dad is. But do you think that by being a pastor, because there have been others on City Council, I'm not too happy with what they've done. As a pastor, could you bring a little salvation to the council, do you think?
Yes, and that's what I want to do. I think we need some saved people. We need someone whose strength comes from above, whose decision-making comes, from God, someone who is guided by God, who knows Him. And I truly know God, and He is the key to everything in my life. And I think we need that. We need someone who is able to speak about God and be open about, my spirituality and just about how important it is to let Him lead us. I think in general, we need new leadership in here in the city of Detroit, but we also need the Spirit of God.
Certainly.
In Detroit as well, and people need to find God in Detroit. So I think we need someone who is saved and someone who is open about that.
Okay. What do you think are the main problems with the city?
I think we've had failed leadership over the last maybe 10, 15 years in Detroit. We've had failed leadership. We've had people who have gotten to office and really have took upon themselves to make themselves, really have benefited from themselves, not the public. I think we have a city where the population is gone. People have left, so our tax base has declined. But overall, the city is not safe. It's not clean. So people have left. People don't feel like their children can get a quality education, so they left. So I think for me, my main issues as a city council member that I would want to address is making this city safe, making the city clean, and making the city competitive. A city, creating an environment that will keep my generation here in Detroit and also bring people back to the city of Detroit. We just need new leadership that is not about themselves, but about the people and advancing Detroit.
What's the qualifications for being on city council that you think should be the qualifications?
Just someone who has proven themselves to serve this city, not just around election time. They just don't show up around election time, but who has served the city of Detroit, who has some type of background, of course, maybe with finances, management, who's able to manage well, communication skills, things of that sort. But I think we just really need someone who has proven to be someone who has served this city and is able to put people first.
That's a good point, serving people, which you have a lot of experience of, just being a co-pastor. You have experience on it that way. What would you do to bring that about in the city?
Serving the people?
Yes.
I just, like I said before, I want to be completely open and transparent. I don't think that elected officials, once they're elected, they don't spend enough time in their district with their constituents. So I just want to be that city council person that's hands-on, that's in my community, that's in my neighborhoods, that's not just behind the desk, behind the table, but that is in the community and that's hands-on, that is trying to start mentoring programs, that is trying to build financial literacy centers within a district, that is trying to build up the communities. I think that is really serving the public that we need right now in city government.
If I'm correct, city council members are not going to be paid. Is that correct?
Well, we're not sure. We're not sure.
You're not sure right now?
With Kevin Orr here, the emergency manager, we are not sure. Everything is up in the air at this point, so we're not sure.
With Mr. Orr being here, what kind of authority would council members have anyway?
We won't.
Okay.
We won't have any
All
power.
right.
We don't right now. City council members don't have any power with Kevin Orr being here,
Sure.
but he won't be here forever. And I think voters need to remember that Kevin Orr has an 18-month term. After that 18-month term is up, then city council can really outvote him to be removed. So he won't be here forever. And when he leaves, when he transitions out, we need good leadership in place to continue to move Detroit forward.
So I'm going to assume that you believe that Detroit will make a comeback.
Oh, most definitely. I wouldn't be here. I mean, I'm at 26 years old. I've been able to travel. I went to, D.C. for a while, New York. I've been to other cities, but I have always come back to Detroit because I feel that I have been called to serve here. My passion is Detroit. There is no other city like Detroit. There is no other city like Detroit. So my passion is here, and I know we will come back. No question.
I was speaking to someone just yesterday, and they said, "Oh, Detroit's had it. It's done." I said, "Detroit's been down before, and it's always come back, and it will happen again. It may not happen in the next 2 years, the next 5 years, but it's definitely going to happen." So I don't have any problems in understanding your viewpoint. I've lived in different cities as well, and except for the weather, I would always come back.
Yeah, I would.
I just hate the weather.
Yeah.
I just hate it here. Yeah.
But if you look around, I live downtown. Detroit is coming back.
Yes.
In certain areas, especially downtown. You have people moving in. There's things being built, development coming up down off the water. I mean, there's things happening in Detroit. The Whole Foods that just opened up in Midtown.
Yes.
Midtown is blooming. So Detroit is coming back. There's certain areas
that aren't being touched right now.
Go.
You're going to represent District 5. Do you feel that by representing District 5 that you will have an influence over the rest of the city as well?
I think so. I think any elected official in some ways has influence over, Detroit. What I do in District 5, I think other people will see, people who are in my district, hopefully will be able to benefit from. And I definitely think that just being an elected official will have an influence over Detroiters in general.
They usually hate them,
though. They usually hate them. People tell me all the time. I don't know why. People just in general do not like city council.
They really don't.
Yeah.
And yet, I look back and think of Irma Henderson, who was there for, ages and ages. And I'm not really sure of all the things that she did. She did some things, but toward the latter term years of her career, not so much.
Yeah, and people tell me all the time, city council is one of those jobs where you get in and after that it's almost like there's nothing else to do. And I thought about that because I look at, the council president now, President Charles Pugh now, and how his life has completely changed.
In a matter of weeks.
Yes.
Yes.
But he went from a news journalist for Fox 2 News to what he's doing now to now he may not even be able to get a job in Detroit.
That's quite true.
Yeah.
Chances are he won't.
Yeah.
Because people are going to believe, even if he's proven to be innocent of everything, people are always going to say, no, he was guilty, he just got away with it.
Yeah.
So his career is probably ruined here in this city.
Yeah.
What is your platform?
My platform really, what I mentioned before, is creating an environment that will keep my generation here and bring people back to the city of Detroit. And that environment, to me, is a city that is safe, a city that is clean, and a city that is competitive. So those are my 3 top issues. And safety. I think we need to increase the number of officers that are in the street. I mean, I know as a city council member, I can't do too much, but I want to work closely with the new chief and making sure we have the most effective and innovative strategies to prevent crime in Detroit. And also, I'm very, very passionate about neighborhood watch programs. When I talk to residents all the time, they tell me how, we need a neighborhood watch program in our, in our neighborhood. So I want to be that council member that kind of goes into the district and tries to help get those started in neighborhoods where they don't exist. And then clean. We just need to get the blight removed from the city of Detroit, working with the private sector to eliminate the blight and abandonment and dangerous homes in our community. And then once we have a city that is safe and clean, I think then businesses will want to invest here in Detroit. And when they invest here, we need to make sure that we eliminate any red tape and that we are creating a competitive environment so that businesses will want to set up here and hire Detroiters.
Okay, someone asked me to ask this of you. How do you plan on paying for this?
Which one?
Anything they said on your platform, how do you plan on paying for it?
Well, I think we need to be more, the private sector, number one, we need to continue to work with the private sector. There was $100 million that was just awarded to Michigan for blight removal. Detroit Blight Authority, they've been getting money, crazy money to remove blight. So we need to continue to work with the private sector. We also need to go after federal money. I think there's federal money available and grant money. I'm glad that Kevin Orr is doing an overhaul now of the grant department here in Detroit. He said it was $200 and something million that Detroit gets awarded in grants, but we have no idea where that money is going. So we just need to pay careful attention to what money is already coming into Detroit, making sure that it's spent appropriately, and also collecting money that Detroit owes. From residents, from businesses, income taxes, property taxes. We need to collect what is owed to us as well. One
of the knocks on the city is that it's very hard to do business in the city. What could you do to help clear that up? There seems to be a lot of red tape.
That is so true. All I can say is, through legislation, trying to create an environment, eliminate red tape, so businesses will want to set up here. I mean, I want to be the entrepreneurial candidate where I'm business friendly, where businesses can reach me and connect with me, and know that I will fight to get them in Detroit. But now if they come to Detroit, we need to make sure that we're giving them some type of incentives to hire Detroiters, that they are the first choice, that they're hiring Detroiters.
Definitely so.
Yes.
You mentioned Detroit Public Schools. Are you a product of the school system?
I actually went to Southfield Lathrop. And I went to Wayne State for college.
Sorry. You went to Southfield?
Yes.
Forgive her. She didn't know any better. Okay.
I know.
I'm a Catholic girl.
Okay. My father went there.
Yes, I know.
Did you guys go to school together?
No.
Okay,
we did not, but yeah, I did know that he went there, and you deserted us.
Yeah.
That's okay, because you go where your parents pretty much put you.
Pretty much at that
You
age.
don't really have a choice. What do you think can be done to improve school systems, Detroit school system? What do you think? What needs to be done?
I'm definitely for public education. I think the EAA, what Steiner is doing, from my understanding and my readings, they haven't been that effective. My thing is just charter or public education. As long as kids are receiving a quality education at this point, is what I'm concerned with. Low performing schools, I agree with, need to be closed. Schools that are not performing well need to be closed. And we just need to make sure that we have the best teachers, and that kids are receiving the quality education that they need to get.
One of the things that the board did is that they forced the older teachers to retire. They pretty much forced them out. And I can understand, because you need to save money. You can hire the young ones for no money at all. However, you don't have the same quality that you had with the elders. Now, some of them needed to go because they weren't doing anything. Do you agree that there should be a standardized national test for teachers?
I think so. I think there should be some type of testing for teachers. We want the best and the most qualified teachers teaching our students. So I think that there should be some type of test. I do believe, I agree with you were saying, as far as the older teachers are somewhat well seasoned. They, know how to teach. They've been around for a while. But then also there's some good new teachers as well too, who can bring some new energy and excitement and, hands-on type of things that our children do need. But I do think some type of national test is a good idea for teachers.
I'm all for teachers.
I
love teachers. I think they are so vital to the future of the country in general. We are not willing to pay them a lot.
We're not at all. Yeah, and I agree. I think we need to pay our teachers more. I mean, they are so critical in a child's development, and our young children growing up. But for the pay that they get and the work that they do, it's not fair.
Would you be willing to help work with the school board, Detroit Public Schools, work with them to set up an incentive program?
Yeah.
For the teachers? Okay.
Yep, I'm for that.
All right, teachers, you hear that? There's an incentive program that may be on the horizon. I think that if you encourage teachers to continue their education, then they will do so. And if they're rewarded by what they do in the classroom, and that shows in the students' grades. Now, you can't make students learn.
That's true.
If they don't want to learn, they're not going to do it. But you can identify those students pretty quickly.
You can.
So let's get back to you being a co-pastor.
Okay.
Because we just touched that a tiny bit.
Okay.
What do you do exactly?
Well, right now I'm only preaching every second Sunday. And my father preaches in New York every second Sunday, so while he's there, I preach here in Detroit.
Okay.
This is new. I just started maybe about 2 months ago. So I'm just relatively new. Just got ordained, but I've been preaching since I was 16.
Okay.
But as far as being a co-pastor, that just recently happened a few months ago.
Okay. In the ministry, where does your passion lie?
My passion really lies outside of the church, outside of the pulpit. I think people forget that ministry is more than just Sunday. It's more than just church. Ministry is really, to me, outside of the church. So I mentor young women. That's my passion. I mentor at-risk youth here in Detroit. And when I, speak with them and guide them, and we go over, things that are bothering them, and I'm able to be of some help to them, that is where my ministry, to me, really comes in. And when people hear me, and they tell me that I touched them, that I was able to, make them cry, and that to me is true ministry. But to me, it's outside of the church. It's outside of the church. It's smiling at somebody, when you walk by. That's ministry. I mean, you never know. It's giving someone $1 who is standing on the corner. To me, that is true ministry. Ministry is more than just being behind a pulpit and behind church and inside of a church.
Well, in truth, we have pastors that are called to be in the church, and then we have those of us that are called outside of the church, and fortunately they blend together.
Yeah.
So while you're mentoring young people, since your constituency is made up of both, how are you relating to the male populace?
How am I relating to the male?
Yes. How do you think you can?
You said.
How do you think you can?
Or relate to the males?
Yeah.
I mean, I relate to men. I think I relate to, I actually work with inmates. I work at the Wayne County Jail. So my ministry goes into the jails because I see men every day, and I communicate with them, talk with them about challenges that they're going through, and I try to motivate them and encourage them, to do better. So I relate to men. In my district, though, in particular, it is majority senior citizens that live in my district. We don't have a lot of youth. Okay. The voters in my district are senior citizens. So I relate to the older women and men in my district. So. Okay.
On what side of the...
Both.
Really?
Everywhere. My district is primarily made up of senior citizens. Well, I should say the voters in my district are primarily made up of senior citizens.
Are you interested in bringing in some young people into that district?
Yes.
How would you go about doing that?
And reaching out to them. I think there's some there, but I think, like I said, we have to create an environment where people will want to come. I mean, who will want to move?
And will want to stay.
Yeah, and want to stay. I mean, who will want to move on a block with one house, abandonment, blight everywhere? It's not safe. I wouldn't want to move me and my child, especially if I'm a single mother, move my child into a street or a neighborhood where they don't feel safe. There's no nearby school. It's not clean. So it goes back to my platform of creating an environment that is safe, that is clean, and that is competitive.
Just for a few moments, I want to talk about your educational background.
Okay.
You went to school, high school in Southfield.
Yes, ma'am.
Southfield, Lathrop, correct? Okay. Where did you go from there?
From there, I went to Wayne State University.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry, I went to Eastern first. I went to Eastern for 1 year.
The party school.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I left. I stayed for 1 year. I said, this is too much. I need to get focused. So I left from Eastern and I transferred back here to Wayne State. I actually finished school in 3 years. I graduated at 21. I was taking like 21 credit hours. I went straight through, all the way through summer, and just finished at 21. From there, I'm currently now at Central Michigan University working on my master's. Doing it very slow though, because with campaigning and working, it's a lot on my plate.
Oh, your degree is in?
Master's of Science in Administration.
Okay. Do you feel that that will help you in politics?
To me, where it helps me more so is just administration management, you know, and understanding, you know, organizational behavior, you know, things of that sort. So to me, the politics part is something that's already in me. You know, I've been around it. You know, I've watched my father, and I don't really consider myself a politician. You know, I'm more of a people person, someone who is trying to serve the people, and that to me is something you learn hands-on. You don't learn that through school. You learn that through experience.
I kind of think being in the ministry is going to play a vital part in that, because you have to have that hands-on experience with that. So that will certainly do. Speaking of which, did you go take any religious study courses?
I did not. I plan on it. I was ordained, but I do plan on taking some religious courses.
Why?
Because I just wanted to make sure that I am prepared, you know, and that I'm well educated on what I'm preaching to others. Most of my ministry up to now has been personal experiences that I've had in my walk with Christ. It's been about my spirituality and my growth and what I've learned, and really just speaking to, you know, to the congregation about what I've learned and my experiences.
Well, I do want to thank you for taking time to be with us on today, and good luck on your campaign. I trust that the Lord will bless you and that you will continue on.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Today's Christian Woman. I'm your host, Reverend Kerrene Covington. We invite you to join us again. Our guest today has been Pastor Marry Sheffield, candidate for 5th District in Detroit. Until we meet again, may God bless you and keep living saved.